Oh, good morning. Today's Friday. Wow, Friday the 10th, and today we are in Isaiah chapter 58, and it's all 14 verses. And so I'll just go ahead and read. It says, "Cry aloud, spare not. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Tell my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily, and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness and did not forsake the ordinance of their God. They ask of me the ordinance of justice. They take delight in approaching me. Why have we fasted, they say, and you have not seen? Why have we afflicted our souls, and you take no notice? In fact, in the day of your fast you find pleasure and exploit all of your laborers. Indeed, you fast for strife and for debate, arguing, and you strike with the fist of wickedness. You will not fast as you do this day, to make your voice heard on high. It is a fast I have chosen, a day for a man to afflict his soul. Is it to bow down his head like a bulrush, just something mechanical, and to spread out sackcloth and ashes? Would you call this a fast, an acceptable day to the Lord? Verse 6, is this not the fast that I have chosen? To loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and that you bring to your house the poor who are cast out? When you see the naked, that you cover him, and not hide yourself from your own flesh? Then your light shall break forth like the morning. Your healing shall spring forth speedily, and your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry, and he will say, Here I am. If you take away the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger, and speaking wickedness, if you extend your soul to the hungry, and satisfy the afflicted soul, then your light shall dawn in the darkness, and your darkness shall be as the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually, and satisfy your soul in drought, and strengthen your bones. You shall be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose waters do not fail. Those from among you shall build the old waste places. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations, and you shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to dwell in. If you turn away your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, and the holy day of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you shall delight yourself in the Lord, and I will cause you to ride on the high hills of the earth, and feed you from the heritage of Jacob, your father. The mouth of the Lord has spoken. So here in this chapter, God is speaking through his prophet to the people, and he's telling them that they're falling short in their worship. They don't really understand what it's all about. They're going through the motions, but they're missing the point. He talks about their fasting. You know, they bow their heads, they walk around in sackcloth and ashes like they're really broken and over their sin, and they're sad for their iniquity and all this stuff, but there's no change in how they live. There's no change. There's no real remorse for what they've done. And I found verse 6 was really interesting. He says, "Is this not the fast that I have chosen?" In other words, God says, this is how I want you to fast. "To loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free, to break every yoke. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and that you bring to your house the poor who are cast out? And when you see the naked, that you cover them?" You see, he's saying that true worship is not just bowing your head and acting a certain way or looking humble on the outside. True worship results in action. True worship results in being moved to do these things that he mentions: feeding the hungry, clothing the one who has no clothes, housing the ones who are homeless. Kind of calls to remembrance the book of James in the New Testament, where he says, "Faith without works is dead." We can say we believe in God. We can say we believe in a lot of things. But the real test is, does it change our behavior? Does it result in actions? And here he says that, look, if your true worship results in the right actions, where you, instead of oppressing your brother and wanting your own way, if you would look after your brother, he says, if you will do these things, verse 9 says, then you will call and the Lord will answer. You will cry and he will say, "Here I am." And he says, if you take away the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger and speaking wickedness, put away those wicked practices and do the right thing. He says, if you will do the right thing and take away the yoke from your midst, oppressing the people who worked for them, or in the context of this passage, when the people came back from their bondage in Babylon, one of the first things they did is those who had pretty much enslaved those who did not have. They became like indentured servants, and they oppressed them. And God says, "How can you expect me to bless you? I delivered you out of this bondage, and now you're putting your own countrymen in bondage?" He says, "Don't expect me to bless you. Don't expect me to hear your cries. Don't expect me to guard you and protect you." He said, "But if you do the right thing, if you take away the yoke from your midst," then he says, "I will extend your soul to. If you extend your soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul," he says, "then your light shall dawn in the darkness, and your darkness shall be as the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your soul in drought and strengthen your bones, and you will be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose waters do not fail. It's just a simple matter of, when we come to God, we need to come to him on his terms, and we need to be obedient. We need to be obedient to the principles of what he says. Fasting is not something we often talk about. It's not something that me as a Baptist is not something that was really much of the Baptist tradition that I grew up in, and is still not. But I understand the concept. The concept is, God, I need you more than anything. Lord, you're the most important thing in my life. And I'm willing to deny myself of this or that. And take the time to seek you in prayer, and to humble myself and cry out to God and meditate on his word, and denying worldly pleasures or food for that matter. But what Isaiah is saying, what God is saying through the prophet Isaiah, is that it's more than just, God, I want you to bless me, so I'm gonna show you how humble I am, and I'm gonna deny myself these things, and I'm gonna put on sackcloth and ashes and bow my head, stoop down low to show my humility. And God says, look, you can do all that you want, but if you're not practicing righteousness, if you're not loosing those who are oppressed, if you are not feeding the hungry, and you're not clothing those who lack, and you're not providing shelter for those who are without, then all your words and stuff are just empty to me, and I won't hear you. So with our faith needs to come action. The old saying is, no one cares what you have to say until they know how much you care, or no one cares what you say until they know that you care. And so we can preach the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ till we're blue in the face. But if we're not willing to show the love of God, then we're kind of defeating ourselves before we ever get started. You see, we have to show God's love as well as speak it. Of course, we know that it's not enough just to do good things. It's not enough just to feed the hungry. You have to tell them the good news of Jesus Christ. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. It's not enough just to put an offering in a collection plate to support the local food bank. We also have to proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ. But they go hand in hand. The sharing of the good news, but also the showing the love of Christ. They're both needed. And I think that's generally what this passage is all about. Not just going through the motions religiously of fasting, but that there's some actions that show that there's a changed heart, there's a humble heart, there's a realization that I need to do the works of God. And that's when God sees that, he says, then I will pour out my blessings on you. Then I will be your rear guard. I will make you flourish. So it's about our motivations. It's not about I'm going to fast so I can get something from God. I'm going to fast to show God that he's the only thing I need, that he's the most important thing. And I'm going to share the love of God with those around me. believe that's kind of the gist of this passage. That's all I have for today. I hope you have a blessed day, and I know we've got some winter weather coming this afternoon and through the night, so please be safe out there, and pray that we don't lose power and everybody stays warm. But please don't drive in that mess if you don't have to. So that's all I have for today. We'll see you again on Monday.